really helped me so much. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat, and if you're new here, welcome. Today I will be sharing with you guys something that I really am obsessed with, and is been the secret weapon in my life, honestly, and is prayer, but specifically my prayer journal. And I want to teach you guys how you can use a simple journal, doesn't matter how big, how small, to talk to God, to better your prayer life and really use it as a tool, you know, in your spiritual journey. If you're interested on how to learn how you can use your prayer journal or create one, please keep on watching. For the first tip for keeping a prayer journal is to be honest with God. Basically, the way I write in my prayer journal is I write it like letters to God, literally, where I say, Dear Jesus, Dear God, Dear Lord, and I just thank him, then I ask for forgiveness, and then I just share whatever I'm currently going through in a journal style of like, God, I'm going through this. Obviously, God knows everything that we're going through, but sometimes it's just good to just reiterate, you know, your struggle and, you know, how you feel and be honest. And that's something that my journal helped me do, because a lot of times when I would pray, I wouldn't be super vulnerable and honest about things that were in my heart, even though God knows our heart. You know, he wants us to be humble enough to share our heart with him and be honest when we're frustrated, be honest when we're sad, when we're going through things. And a good example of that is David in the Bible, in Psalms, where, you know, he would constantly just let the Lord know, like, hey, I'm sad, or I'm going through this, or I feel frustrated. Lord, please don't leave me. Lord, please don't leave me alone. You know, like a lot of his Psalms are like that. So that's pretty much very identical to how I go about my prayer journal. So the first thing I would recommend is to make it as letters to God and be as honest and real as possible with him. Second thing I would recommend, and a tip for keeping a prayer journal, is to always reflect, not just in your letters to God, but like actively go back and read some of your prayers. And I do this all the time because it's such a good exercise for your faith and increasing your faith. Because one thing is to pray about something in your mind and then it happens and you kind of forget about it. But when you see yourself writing down, when you see the tears on your paper, on your little page, of when you were frustrated with God, or when you didn't know how he was going to provide for your family that week, or how things were going to work out with a certain person in a relationship or potential relationship and stuff like that, and you read how you were before and how God has helped you and a miracle happened or something happened that completely changed your state and your being. It's so amazing to just look back and be like, wow, I can't believe I was this person before, I had this type of character before, I dealt with situations this way before, and now look at how the Lord has transformed me. And you literally read it and you see it. And I always date, you can't see, but I always put a date and a time when I write in my prayer journal, so that I can, when I do read it back, I can understand, like, okay, January 4th, 2020, 8:44 p.m. This is what I was praying to God about. This is what was on my heart. This is how my soul was feeling. And now, wow, look at how the Lord has been so good and answered that prayer. And even in the negative sense, and not a negative sense because God's will was perfect, but in the negative sense of like, oh, I prayed for getting this job opportunity and I didn't get it and stuff like that. So it's really cool to just constantly reflect on it. You know, as someone like me who I deal with doubt and like self-doubt and things of that nature, it can be hard for me to remember God's promises, you know. And of course we have the Bible to remember God's promises, but it's so helpful to just see in my own personal journey how God has been faithful and how he will continue to be faithful in this new situation that I'm encountering. So I constantly love to just look back at how the Lord has worked in me. Write down, next to like your letter to God, write down like specific verses that are helping you during the season in your life of frustration or of joy or whatever, or like worship songs that have really been on your heart, like worship songs that are your favorite worship song to listen to in that time, or that directly correlate with what you're writing about in your journal. For me, that's been so helpful, because like I said, even when I reflect, not only do I read my letters and see where I was before and where I'm now, thanks to God, but I can read these encouraging Bible verses on the side. Yeah, so like for example, for this one on December 21st, 2019, I put 2 Corinthians 12:9, and it says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." So reading that just in itself is like, I read this, I look back and I feel encouraged. Or I write about feeling weak or going through whatever I'm going through, and then writing that right next to it is just constant reiteration of faith and of God's promises and of his goodness. Keep it in a safe place. You know, prayer journals this is very personal to me. I don't have a diary, but this is the closest thing I'll get to one where I really share my heart with God. So I wouldn't fully feel comfortable with people reading it. I wouldn't mind it, like if they read it, but it's something between me and God, right? When you have an intimate relationship with someone, the best thing about it is that it's intimate and private, and it's something that only you and that person know. So definitely keep it in a safe place where like people won't really touch it or read it or snoop through it. However, keep it in a place not just where it's locked away and you never see it, but where it's handy. So maybe in your drawer, maybe in your kitchen, maybe in your bedroom, maybe under your pillow, under your bed, or wherever you pray most often, so that whenever you want to talk to God, you can easily pull it out instead of feeling like, oh, I have to get out of bed, then I have to go to the kitchen, or then I have to go to the living room to pick it up. You know, you want to write in this as much as possible, because prayer is like one of the most important tools that we have, and one of the ways that we can have a great relationship with God. I feel like the closer you are to God is when you pray the most and you're constantly seeking him wholeheartedly. And this little thing right here is what has helped me get so much closer to God, be honest with him, and go to him when I'm happy and I want to write about it, go to him when I'm sad and I want to write about it, and knowing that he's there and he listens. And this is mainly not for God, because God listens regardless if you write something down or not, even when we think. But this is mainly for me, so that I can read it back and see his faithfulness. So I can read it back and be able to testify about his goodness. I can write down things that have been prophesied over my life, write it down and look back and remind myself of that during times where everything seems like it's the contrary of what God has promised. And I can later on in the future, one day, read something from this that was prophesied over me, or a promise that God gave me, and let you guys know that he's faithful as well. So this is mainly for me. So you don't need to use a prayer journal if you feel comfortable just talking to God, but I highly recommend it. It's a huge testimony, you know, builder, and receipts. These are like your receipts of God's goodness, and it's amazing. So I highly recommend. Doesn't matter what type of journal, as long as it's a place where you can just write all your letters to God and your encouragement and your notes to yourself. If you like to doodle, you could doodle too. I originally got this to make it like a art journal and be more creative. On September 2017, literally, I wrote it down. This marks the beginning of my creativity and documentation of my journey. But as I got closer to God in 2018, I decided to just make it a prayer journal instead of like a random pasting things in and making it cute journal. So that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys get a prayer journal. If you get one, take a picture and DM it to me on my Instagram, or comment down below that you have one. If you do already have one, share with me any more tips you have, and with others. I'd love to have a little prayer journaling community with you guys. If you have any questions, please let me know down below. That's everything, and have a blessed rest of the week and day. Bye.